Hi guys, welcome back to my video. Today we are going to be talking about the nervous system. Please watch the video before this on homeostasis because you'll need that information for this. We know that the stimuli is a change in the environment. The nervous system is what detects this change. Organisms need to respond to the stimuli in order to survive. So their cells of multicellular organisms communicate with each other first, and then single-celled organisms respond to its environment. If that sounds confusing, we're going into it in depth now. So we have our body. Very gorgeously drawn, Emma, I know. Cool. I'm very impressed by that, apart from the legs are quite different. So it all starts off with the receptors. So let's take skin receptors, for example. The receptors detect a stimuli. We said this in the last video, but we must get this in your head that the receptors detect this change in the environment. There's many different types of receptors. You can get taste receptors on your tongue, sound receptors in your ears, or they can form parts of complex organs, perhaps. For example, on your retina, you have light receptor cells. We actually spoke a little bit about this in the video about the eye. So anyway, the receptors will detect this change in the environment, and it will go along this information will go along the sensory neurons. These things are called sensory neurons. Sensory neurons carry in electrical impulses from receptors to the CNS, the coordination center, which we also spoke. So the sensory neurons, the electrical impulses which carry they carry information from the receptor cells, but they carry them as electrical So sensory neurons carry information as electrical impulses from the receptors to the CNS. The CNS, this can be your brain and your spinal cord. This basically, the CNS coordinates the response. They decide that it receives the information. So it receives the information, receives info, and then coordinates a response. So it gets this information from the sensory neurons that's come from the receptors, and then it basically decides what to do. It's the decision maker, you could say, if that makes you think about it better. So it's the decision maker. And then the response is then carried out by the effectors. But they go across, so this is also this is the spinal cord, let's say. The sensory neurons the CNS is connected to the sensory neurons and the motor neurons. This can be the motor neurons along here. the motor neurons are neurons that carry electrical impulses from CNS to effectors. So these electrical pulses have gone to the brain, down the motor neuron to the effectors, and the effectors, see, this is my muscle cell. So the effectors, these can be muscles or glands. And they respond to nervous impulses from the motor neurons. So this can be muscle or gland. And then it brings about a change. This is the changer. This is what does, you know, this is what, as we said, brings it. Oh, you can't even see. Oh, sorry. This is what coordinates the change. It brings it back to its optimum level. It produces the response, and this response can be muscle contraction, or that says contraction, or like secretion of hormones by the glands. That might be confusing, but it's actually rather simple to get your head around. It's basically all the components of your automatic control system working together as one big team. Oh my goodness, sorry. Don't know why I said sorry, because that didn't hurt you, I'm sure. Just look how good my man looks. Or woman, sorry. Could be either or. Now this won't stand up. That's just great. There we go. What? Oh my god, it's very vastly dripping down. And I knew purple was too dark of a colour to use because it takes ages to get off. So basically now I'm gonna show you how this happens in action as a little bit of an example. I'm sure if you skip about 10 seconds ahead, I would have already done this. So you should do that now. That is the worst. We're going to use black now because that's the only thing that will come up from here. Okay, so we've got, let me think of an example. Okay, so we have, there's this bird. Think about a bird. Oh, so let's just quickly just say that the order that it goes in, for everyone who doesn't know, it goes receptors, I'm not going to write it out, sensory neurons, and then it goes to the CNS, the coordination centre, then it goes to the motor neurons, then it goes to the effectors. That's the order that you will need to remember. So if this is difficult to get your head around, it's much easier to do an example. So we may have a bird, we're a bird, and we see a cat. Okay, this cat is the stimulus. This cat, you know, it's the change in the environment. The cat wasn't there before. So then we have the receptors. So for example, the eye, as we've drawn before, do you remember when we had the eye thing like that? We had the retina. So we're going to see the light receptors. This is in the retina. Detects the stimulus. Remember, it detects the stimulus, and then the sensory neurons carry this information as electrical impulses from the receptors to the CNS, which is going to be our brain, that gorgeous brain. And the brain, the brain decides what to do about it. It's the decision maker, remember? So then it sends information as electrical. Oh, that's too curly. Oh, that's now getting me confused. What a great marker pen this is. Not motor neuron. It's as it sends information to the muscles. It goes to the muscles, which, as we know, are the effectors. These are my weird muscle cell things. These muscles are going to be in the bird's wings. The effectors who produce this response, they bring about the change. Their muscles contract, and the bird flies away from the cat. Obviously, that happens not as slowly as I just explained it, but as you can see, this cycle from seeing the stimulus and bringing it back to normal responding. Quickly, before we finish off, we'll just quickly talk about the synapses. Synapse is something that connects these neurons. We've spoken about the sensory neurons and the motor neurons. We have a synapse, which looks like this. This is the nerve impulse. So this is the impulse that we've got given, for example, from the receptors. And then this is just the end of the neuron, by the way. And then for another neuron here, this is a separate neuron. It doesn't quite touch. You can see there's this gap, and actually chemicals are released. The synapse is this connection. This is the synapse. It's a connection between the two neurons. And the nerve signal, so this signal, this impulse, is transferred by chemicals. That's the key here. Chemicals which diffuse or move across this gap. Diffuse. And then these chemicals then set off a new electrical signal in the next neuron, and then this carries on, and this is why we can get this electrical impulse going all around the body through these chemicals transferring and the new electrical signals in each neuron to carry on the previous message. So that's the end of that video. In the next video I'm going to talk about reflexes. This ties into it very, very well, and it's quite interesting, so click on the next video.